Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Michelangelo, and I'm here today to show you a project that I've been working on the past couple of months, codenamed Davinci. So without further ado, let's dive into what I'm demoing today. So a little bit of context for you. What we're doing today is hopefully showing you an improved way of providing additional context for AI code suggestions. Right now, GitLab Duo Code Suggestions only uses the single working file as context towards our AI models. So as an example, if I want to write some unit tests for the graphql.js file, and I say write some tests for the graphql.js file, you'll see that the generated code here is essentially made up. It's not using any additional context other than what's in the file that you see here. Now, there are many ways we can improve code context. So stage one is very much achievable, and it's what GitHub Copilot already does. So we can use open files as code references. But what if we could do more? What if we can actually push the industry and use new technologies for providing better code context? So what I'm going to be showing today is stage 2 and stage 3. Stage 2 is essentially using the abstract syntax tree for statically analyzing the code in real time and using that code as references towards the AI model. Stage 3, aka Davinci, or the secret sauce here to the demo, is an underlying API that we can use that resolves context across an entire repository at the scale of the GitLab monolith. Now, let's show what stage 2 would look like. You can see on the right here, we have a UI. This is a visual representation of what's happening underneath the hood as we resolve these code references through the static analysis. I'm going to go ahead and open this graphql.js file just to show you some of the code that we're going to be referring to. But just so you can see that I'm not cheating, I'm going to go ahead and close this code here. And let's go ahead and import this file. Import GraphQL from GraphQL, and I'm going to say write some unit tests for this. As you can see here, it's actually just like magic generating code that we're actually referring to. And just to confirm this, we'll go to the right here and you'll see this is the code that I just showed you before. And for our security sensitive customers, developers now have the ability to actually view the prompt and they can verify that the code that was referenced here is actually sent to the model. And this also works for multiple files. So if I import another file, this one is called index.js, import index from index.js, and I run the same thing, you'll see here, it's going to actually start using that code in the code generation. So if we look to the right here, you can see index.js, which is additional code sent to the model, and graphql.js, as you saw before. Now, stage 2 is pretty cool so far, but what if we wanted to actually use namespace languages like Ruby and Go? What if we wanted to work with bigger repositories and handle more data? Well, that's where Davinci comes into play. So let's show you that. Davinci builds on top of what I showed you so far. However, it takes a different approach. Essentially, it builds a running index of the entire repository. Now, let's reload the window here. You'll see that it's going to run an indexer process. This indexer process parses every single file within the GitLab monolith, around 40,000 files or so, and provides a working database of the entire GitLab monolith that allows us to query different files at scale. So let's pull up one of my favorite examples. Let's go to filestore.go. You can see here in this filestore.go file, we have two functions, consume and consume without delete. These are considered definitions. So if you were to use a normal LSP lookup, it would go to these definitions. Now, let's say I'm in a different file. Let's call it destination.go, which is already an existing file within the GitLab monolith repository. And let's say I want to write some tests for this file on the fly as I'm working with it. Normally, the developer workflow is a bunch of copying and pasting, but now we have the ability to provide smart code suggestions or references on the fly. So let's show an example. If we go here and I do the same thing, write some unit tests for the consume function, and I press enter, you'll see here it's going to start generating code. And you're wondering, this code seems awfully specific. And that's because it's actually using the exact file that I showed you before on the right here. You can see here it's using the consume function and the consume without delete function, as well as related code that I found within the GitLab monolith. It resolves this code through a localized database. So there's no external service that this is talking to. This is all running locally on the client, and the only data that's sent to the backend is the prompt that's constructed here. And just to show off a little bit more, if we collapse these here and I copy and paste this prompt and put it up here with the consume without delete function and have it generate some additional code, you can see that it's using the code that was resolved on the right here. So I can save this code here and I can look on the right and it's using consume without delete and the additional code that I found for consume without delete. Because we're leveraging the abstract syntax tree by parsing all of these files and extracting the relevant data that we need, we can now work with multiple languages in a generalized way. So let's show some Ruby as an example. So I've got this Anthropic prompt module pulled up here. This is a definition. In other words, this code here is a definition for this Anthropic prompt identifier. And let's say I'm working with similar code and I have another relevant file pulled up. In this case, it's anthropic.ruby, and I want to look up some related code to this Anthropic prompt. In the normal world, you have to search for it, copy it and paste it, or if it's a deployed service, you have to search it via embeddings or some search technology. With this new way, we have a more foolproof way of resolving this definition so that we can pull out the relevant code. So if I do write unit tests, for example, here, write unit tests for this and let it resolve, you can see here, it's going to use the related code as I showed you before with Go. And to push it even more, let's get rid of this here and let's pull up the original code that we pulled up before. So here's the anthropic.ruby. And now I want to use all the identifiers for this concerns module within the namespace. So then if I write the same prompt, write some unit tests, and we collapse this, you can see it's going to be using all of the definitions across this concerns module. And let's actually push the model and see if we can actually get it to generate some stuff. So you can see here, it's generating and actually writing a good number of unit tests for the related code that we've inserted here. And it just keeps on going. As you can see, it's obviously using a lot of data, which begs the question, how do we handle context limits? Especially now that we have a UI, we can let the user know, hey, you've reached your context limit, and also think about compressing the data. There's multiple things that we can do, as it is a limitation across the industry at this time. Another way that we can handle context limits, and is also a benefit of the ability to have fine-grained localized data, is the ability to provide a ranking. So you can see here, we have 44 references, but the most relevant files are these two files, and that's because these two files are under the models folder and under the same folder as the enterprise edition within the GitLab monolith. So I hope this gets you excited. I know I'm excited, and I want to emphasize that this is not only limited to a local client. This opens the door for a lot of different applications, including agents, and being able to increase the accuracy of our code suggestions. I'll be sure to include a full write-up of everything that you just saw in the related merge request and issue. Thanks, everybody.